Hi, I'm Vicki Westling here with City Speaks. City Speaks is a show that's been brought to you by Mayor Rosas and his administration to inform our residents, our citizens, about what's going on in our city, in our area. And today we have some very special guests because we have campaigns that are going on, you know, in our cities, our villages, our states, our county. And so we have with us, with our League of Women Voters, we have Marcia Merrins and Mary Croxton. So ladies, welcome to the show.
We're happy to be here.
Good. Well, we are so happy to have you because the League of Women Voters plays such a critical role in what we do and in getting the vote out. But you do more than that. And when I took a look at your website and all the things that go on, I know that the League of Women Voters is not just for women. It's really to inform. So tell me a little bit about the mission of the League and your history and what's brought us to where we are today.
First of all, I'd like to say that the National League will be 100 years old. It was formed months before the passage of the 19th Amendment. But what is also special is the New York State League of Women Voters was the first League of Women Voters that was formed in 1917 when women got the vote in New York State, which they got before the 19th Amendment.
The League of Women Voters actually was created because when women got the right to vote, they felt that women needed to be educated. And it really wasn't supposed to be something that would last for the number of decades that it has. But quickly found out that men also needed to be educated, not only on the process of voting, but what issues they would be voting on. So basically, the League of Women Voters started out as an educational organization, and indeed, that is its primary goal, is to educate voters about the voting process, how to register to vote, and educate them about issues that they would be voting on.
And now some of the issues that we talk about, when I went back through some of the history of the League, I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, some of the issues that were concerning our local chapter here, environment, gun control, I mean, these are things that we're still facing today. And certainly our education system is for our schools. So we have, while we think we've evolved, you know, we really are still dealing with some of these same issues.
Well, if you look at the League of Women Voters Chautauqua County website, you will see that the luncheons and evening meetings that we have reflect the current issues of the time. Campaign finance reform, when I moved to town in the 70s, was one of the issues that I went to a luncheon on, and we still have that issue that we discuss probably every other year at a luncheon with an expert speaker. But I also want to say that we started off as an educational organization, and we still are, but now we've become an advocacy organization as well. So when we study issues, oftentimes there is consensus among members as to what legislation is important to achieve the goals of that issue that we're studying. And so we advocate. So we are political in that we take a position on issues and we support them. The difference is we do not support political parties or candidates.
Right.
That's an important.
You know, and that is important. And people think sometimes that you just support this candidate or this particular party, and that is definitely not the case.
It is the issues. And of course, sometimes a candidate will fall in support or in opposition to a position that we take. But we are not supporting or opposing that candidate. We are just advocating for that issue. So when we do debates, which we will talk about in due time, it is very even-handed in terms of the rules of the debate and timing, and so we do not support candidates or political parties.
Right. And so now you brought up debates, so let's go right there. We have so many contested races right now. Tell me a little bit, what is your debate schedule for? Do you have them for the village? Do you have them for the county as well? Because we have our state, we have a Senate position that's...
Yeah, a League member, Pat Carell and Tina Rouse, are coordinating the debates. I will be moderating the debates with my colleague and League member Judy Reynolds. The ones that affect your viewership in Dunkirk will be on October 8th. And it'll be on this channel, 1301, right. And
yes.
They will commence at 7 o'clock on that date.
And they will be where, in the city council
hall,
chambers?
City Hall.
City Hall. And all the candidates have gotten letters kind of defining the parameters upon which we will operate. This is not like any broadcast channel debate that you have seen on television with presidential candidates. This is a little more strict, formalized, and I'm kind of ruthless as a moderator. I don't care what political party you're in. So there will be the Dunkirk mayors, candidates for mayors, which are Sean Hinian and the current incumbent Willie Rosas. And then you have all of the council members who will be on the dais as well. I think there's only one we're waiting to hear from. And they will all be there, even if they don't have an opponent. That candidate in this case is invited to attend, because all the questions directed to council members will be appropriate even if you don't have an opponent.
Okay, so let me ask some questions now, just because I don't understand, and I'm sure that some of our audience won't understand either. If we have all of those council persons who are vying, and the incumbents as well as the competition, if you will, coming in, so we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 5, talking about 10 people. Well, there's only one, because we have one ward, Councilman Bamonto, who does not have an opponent.
9.
You'll have all 9 of them up on the dais, and there will be one question that they all 9 get to answer the same question. Is that correct?
The first one. The first question, they will all have the opportunity. In the first question, they will have the opportunity to introduce themselves, their qualifications for running for this office, and answer the question briefly. They will each have 2 minutes, so that will be the first 18 minutes. You will hear about the candidates. You can find out about the candidates ahead of time by looking up the candidates and their responses on a candidate information website. So then we will handle questions. And I don't necessarily think all of them will answer. They have the opportunity, but some may pass on it. They'll probably only have 1 minute rather than 2 minutes to respond. And then rebuttals will be 1 minute. We'll probably go a little bit longer than usual with that because of the number of candidates, but not much longer. Generally, what candidates want to say, they get out right away.
Okay. So you'll have all 17 of them. So how do we say 9 of them? 9 of them up there.
If they all come.
If they all come. And so will they be asking questions of one another as well?
They will have the opportunity to do that, but it's really a little more interesting to get the questions from the audience and previously submitted questions or questions submitted on index cards at the debate.
Okay. So now, if someone has questions, do they need to be at the debate to present those questions to you? How would they get those questions to you?
That is a good question. I guess they could email it to the League of Women Voters at lwv.net. Or Mary or myself or somebody. If they
could put it on our Facebook page as well. And when people enter the debate, we hand out cards and collect them as well.
Some people don't want to be identified. Right?
And you can telephone in too.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can telephone in questions.
Yeah. Right.
All right, and so that number will be available. So if someone, when you go into the council chambers, if you have a question, you have a card, you can fill the question out. You don't have to sign your name. You can submit it, or there will be time to go up to the podium or to the microphone and ask the question in person.
Absolutely.
But people don't want to do that.
No, and I understand why. People get nervous in front of mics. There's no doubt about it. So I understand that as well.
The telephone call, the person will take the question down. It won't be announced.
Okay, all right. And so now, if it's going to start at 7 o'clock on October 8th, that's Tuesday, October the 8th, 7 o'clock in City Hall Council Chambers.
Right.
We'll have all nine, all nine candidates have been invited.
Right.
And then following that debate, the two mayoral candidates
Right.
will be up.
I'm not sure of the order.
Okay.
I have to check that, but I think it would be the councilman first and then the mayoral debate. But I don't know.
Okay.
Either way, the mayoral debate will probably be about an hour or so, and then the council persons will also be about that time, but maybe a little longer.
Because there's so many of them.
Because there's so many of them. So I actually, thinking about it, probably might put the mayors first and then the council people. So people who are waiting to see they don't have to wait to see the mayors, I guess is what I want to say.
In this case, it doesn't apply, but we do have an empty chair policy in that if let's just say one of the mayor candidates does not accept the invitation, then the debate does not go on. The person can come to the back of the room and talk to people, but we don't have an empty chair policy. So we like
do
to
have an empty-
I mean, we don't let just one candidate speak.
Right.
So if one of the candidates declined the debate, the other candidate would not have an opportunity to speak either.
Right.
Right.
And that is not the case with the council persons, is that correct?
Right.
Because in this case, because there will all nine be up there.
Right.
And if one decides not to show up, the others
The
will
questions
still
would
be
be relevant for the office.
Okay.
If there were 3 people running for mayor, 2 could show.
Okay.
And we can go on with the debate.
Okay, good. So that's the debate, October the 8th at City Hall, and it's going to include everybody. So that's
It will not include candidates for state senate. That
Okay.
will be in Jamestown
okay.
at their mayoral
and
debate.
when is that debate? Do you know when
That
that's
will
scheduled?
be October 15th.
So October 15th between
Barillo.
Barillo and Austin Morgan.
Yeah.
Right, between Barillo and Morgan.
And Jamestown mayoral debate
Okay.
And Fredonia debate will be at the Opera House.
on the 23rd,
On the 23rd.
which is a Wednesday.
So you have a busy month.
Yes.
This is always a busy month for us.
Every month is busy.
So now let's go back a little bit about registration. I know
Yeah.
people say, doesn't matter. Why should I register? I haven't voted in years. I don't plan to vote. My vote won't count. They're all corrupt. They're all this, they're all that. How do you combat that?
Well, interestingly, yesterday was voter registration day, and leagues all around the country were sitting in front of supermarkets, malls, libraries, wherever they're allowed, and giving people an opportunity to register to vote. Interestingly, as well, when you ask a person, "Are you registered to vote?" they will either go yes, and you put thumbs up, and you hand them information about early voting, which we will talk about in a minute as well. But if they don't, they say no. And I said, but one guy I talked to, I said, yeah, but here's a voter registration form. You can fill it out and submit it and not vote. But at least for next November, if you didn't want to vote this November or earlier, you could vote next November for the presidential election and not worry about it. You may decide by that time you know who you're going to vote for. So people will say, and he took it, but if people turn around and don't look at you, they'll say everybody's corrupt, just like you said.
Right.
People are corrupt, my vote doesn't count, I don't have time, I work, it doesn't matter. Right. And the truth of it is, I've discovered after many years of doing this, the real reason is that I think deep down people have an apprehension about going into a situation they're not familiar with. So they're afraid. They go into this polling site, voter inspectors, very serious title.
Oh, sure.
Are going to check to see that you're kosher, that your name is in the book, and if they haven't done it, it's really kind of anxiety provoking. Then they're going to vote on this computer machine, which is really easy, just slip it in, But they don't want to feel like they have to ask a question. What if I don't know how to do it? I'll look stupid.
Right.
But you don't want to say, I don't vote because I don't want to look stupid. People say, I don't vote because it
won't
doesn't
count.
matter.
Right.
It's
It won't
corrupt.
count. Sure. So hopefully we can get rid of some of those apprehensions or barriers or whatever, because it really is important. Every vote does count. Every vote counts. And certainly, you know, there are candidates that you may or may not agree with, candidates you may or may not like, candidates you may or may not believe something about, but your vote counts.
There
And
are write-in votes as well.
I was going to say that, yeah. So if you don't like either candidate, you can write in Mary Croxton or whatever.
Don't do that. Yesterday and today I was doing voter registration, and I typically will ask students, are you registered to vote? You know, and you know, if they say yes, I do tell them about early voting, and the different, you know, what they can do for what dates and times. And we have a brochure that is done by the state, and the local Board of Elections has put out cards for the dates and times that they can vote early and where. So saying I work and don't have the time, that has been a real
When is early voting?
Progress.
Tell me about when is early voting, and it's new this year for New York, right?
It's totally new in New York State. It starts on October 26th. And there are 3 sites in Chautauqua County, but the one that's relevant to your viewers is right on the county fairgrounds, and everybody has been there once or twice, so that's easy. And it just enables you to vote early, and it'll run for 9 days prior to the election. Till November 3rd, but there will not be early voting on November 4th.
Okay.
And Election Day, of course, is November 6th from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. The reason for early voting are all the reasons that you could think of. It gives people an opportunity to vote at their leisure. The times are all varied. It encompasses normal work hours as well as some early evening hours. And you will probably, there are 3 ways you might vote, but in other words, by signing in as you always do in a poll book, but in this case you're going to sign in electronically. So it'll be actually like signing your name to a credit card, you know, receipt. And they have a image of your signature ahead of time, so they will match that, and you know, I'm sure your vote will count.
Right.
So we're doing that because we don't want people voting at all 3 sites.
Right.
You do not need an excuse to vote early. It's not like absentee voting before, but absentee voting is changing. And you don't need to register just to vote early.
No, well, you need to be a registered voter.
You need to vote registered,
Now,
but you don't need to pre-register just to vote early.
Okay, and we also have a couple of flyers that we've gotten from the county, and we're going to have those up on the screen, that talks about early voting and the voting places, and they're both in English and Spanish.
But one more thing I wanted to add to that is that on Election Day you don't go to the fairgrounds. You go to your regular poll site.
Yes.
I don't want people to think that's where they vote now. That's just for early voting.
Right.
You go to your regular poll site on Election Day.
And the obvious, you can't vote, if you voted early, you can't vote absentee or
You
on
can
the
try, but they'll vet it.
You shouldn't vote absentee or
Right.
vote on.
You get one vote,
Well, you
and
get
you
one
get your
vote.
choice of 3 ways to do it.
That's right.
Now, registration is critical. People must be registered by, either have their registration form postmarked by October the 11th, or they must register in person by October the 11th. And that is absolutely something they must do in order to be eligible to vote in this election. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's why you cannot register to vote at early voting, because the deadline is October 11th.
Right. Now, and there are registration forms at City Hall, the city clerk, in the city clerk's office. There are registration forms
At libraries.
at libraries. Where else might they find registration forms?
I know I put some in the village hall at Fredonia.
Right.
And you can go to the Board of Elections.
Sure.
DMV.
And DMV is a good place to.
So there are all sorts of places that you can go pick up your registration form, you need to be registered by October the 11th. If you mail your form in, you have to be postmarked by October the 11th.
October 11th.
Early voting is only early voting. You can't vote early and then go vote later.
Right.
There's another caveat I want to mention, that if you go early voting and you vote for candidate A on October 26th, and between October 26th and November 5th, there's something egregious that this candidate does between that
Well,
time,
you find out about
you
something.
cannot change your vote. Well, you can't vote again because
Right.
something happened. People think because I
Right.
vote early gives me... You voted for candidate A. If he does something terrible before election day, you're stuck with him.
Right. So,
Which is possible.
yeah, so make sure you vet your candidate,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Make sure
That's one reason I think some people were against the early voting.
Yeah.
But it is only
did
9
pass.
days.
Yeah,
It
it's
is
only
only
9
So,
days.
so that happened. Registration is not difficult. The forms are not that complicated, so people need to make sure that they do that. What other important facts or important information should we get? Hopefully your information is factual, but what should we say to the people out there who's watching? Because even if you're only watching this in Dunkirk and you have friends who live in Mayville or Fredonia or Stockton or wherever, you can go to Dunkirk Access. It's up on YouTube and you can get the information there as well. So even if you're not in Dunkirk to watch it on Spectrum 1301, you can catch it at Dunkirk Access on YouTube. So what other information should we share?
About the voting process?
About the voting process, yes.
It's really easy. It's really easy.
About students, I've been telling the students, they can vote here if they wish. So they need to put their dorm hall and the address here at the college if they want to vote here, and on the back of the form are the different counties that you would send your registration to. So you would pick the county that you're wanting to vote in. So if a student lives in Hamburg, and there were a number of them, or New York City, they can register back there through our forms. They just have to pick the correct Board of Elections. But we're trying to encourage students to actually vote here.
So let me make sure I understand that then. So if I have a student who lives in Albany,
Yes,
but they're here studying at Fredonia State,
yes.
they can still vote at Fredonia State. Is that correct?
They can vote here.
But their vote gets their ballot gets
will
sent.
be...
No, they can register here
Okay.
and vote here.
All right.
If that's the question.
That-
Yes, they
okay.
have
I wanted to make sure.
I think it came out differently because
okay.
I missed.
Yeah.
All right. If
They
a
have to
student
register here.
If a student is registered, let's say they're registered in Albany, they have to either vote absentee ballot,
Right.
which will go back to Albany. However, so they can't literally go into a polling place here and vote.
Right.
They can, if they register again before October 11th, here with a local address, then they could come to wherever the poll site is and vote at that poll site with our ballots, with the ballots that are relevant for where the address is.
Okay.
But if they're registered somewhere else, if they come, they say, I'm registered, and I say, where? If they're not in the poll book, you look up their names if they're not in the poll book. So it's complicated in a way. It's hard for people to understand that.
Okay. So
I was talking about kids always registering now.
Who have never been registered.
Okay.
But they are registering. They can fill out the registration form and send it back, but they
Right.
will not be able to
The
vote
vote.
here on
Right.
November 5th.
unless they register for here.
Right.
All right. So let me see if I have this correct.
Yeah.
I'm a student. I live in Albany. I'm registered in Albany, but I'm going to school at Fredonia State. I want to vote in the village of Fredonia. I need to change my register. I need to register
Correct.
here with my current address here at Fredonia State
correct.
in order to vote for a candidate at the village of Fredonia.
Correct.
If I want to vote on a ballot that's in Albany, I can still register here.
No, You're already registered?
No, you can't.
I'm already registered. Okay, so then I would have to use an absentee ballot from
Right.
Albany to vote on
If
that.
you're registered.
If I'm registered in Albany.
You can, if you're not registered at all and still want the ballot from Albany, you can register. You can get a
can still-
registration
okay.
form, but send it to the Albany County Board of
Right.
Elections.
Okay. So
That's more complicated than it needs to
you
be.
must be registered. You must be registered in the county or the area in which you are voting.
Correct.
Okay. All right. That sounded a little complicated, but we got through that.
It really isn't. But needless to say, if you believe that you're registered here, and you open up, you give the election inspector your name, and it's not there, and you say, look, I know I'm registered, I will give you an affidavit ballot, which in essence is a registration form. You fill that out. I'll give you a ballot to put in the envelope, and that will be manually counted and researched. So if you're wrong, it won't count. If you're right, it will count. So you never leave a poll site without casting a ballot.
Okay, so registration is critical. You must be registered in order to vote.
Correct.
Early registration has to be postmarked or in person by October the 11th. Early voting begins October 26th.
October 26th.
October
correct.
26th, early voting. Your early voting site is not the site for your regular voting site.
Correct.
So don't get confused with that. If you're voting early, you go to the fairgrounds if you're in Dunkirk. If you're not voting early, you must go to your regular poll site.
Correct.
The debates will be in Dunkirk on October the 8th, beginning at 7 o'clock at City Hall. All the council persons have been invited. All of the contestants for council have been invited. Both the mayor and the mayoral candidate have been invited.
And accepted.
And they have both accepted.
And many of the councilmen have.
Okay, good. So it should be a pretty busy night.
Yes.
And we are going to leave now with saying, make sure you're registered. Make sure you vote. Your vote does count. It really will count, even if you think that it may not. Is there anything that I have left out?
The elections have been won or lost with 5 votes in
One vote.
places.
Yeah. So we need
So it
to
is
do
important.
that. If you have questions for the candidates for the debates, send those in to where would they send them?
They can send them to Box 42, Fredonia, New York. LWV, Chautauqua, Box 42, Fredonia, New York.
Okay, LWV Chautauqua, Box 42,
Fredonia, New York.
14063.
Correct.
So send those questions. If you're at the debate, when it's at the debate hall, there will be cards that you can fill out if you have questions. You may submit those. You may come to the podium and ask questions at some
we'll
point.
give a number to call.
And there'll be a number.
And there'll be a number to call. So there's no reason not to participate. This is going to be an exciting time. We have candidates going all over the place. Our yards are full of signs. So we're out there, and we have our state, we have county, we have our local campaigns going on. Ladies, thank you so much for being here. This has been very informative.
Thank you.
If there's anything else that comes along, let me know. If there's any information that you want us to put up on the screen, we'll be happy to do that. And thank you for watching City Speaks. Please join us 3 and 10 o'clock every day, on Spectrum 1301. Email me if you have a question, vwestling@cityofdunkirk.com. Call direct. My direct line is 716-363-6888. Let me know if you have questions. Let me know if you have concerns. If there's something that you want me to share with the mayor or with the administration, let me know. We'll be happy to do that. And thank you. Have a great day.